During World War II, the demand for people to work in factories to support the war effort was immense. More than 370,000 women went to work building the equipment needed for the war. Patricia Huzzey was part of that workforce. Pat grew up in Port Arthur, now known as Thunder Bay, at the northern end of Lake Superior. She was a child of the Depression. Pat completed grade 8, and after turning 16, she and 2 older friends signed up to work at an aircraft factory. As Pat puts it, her primary motivation at that time was to get a job to help out her parents, and she also wanted to do her part to help in the war effort. Pat lives in Sidney, BC. My name is Kim Hesketh, a volunteer at the BC Aviation Museum, and I had the privilege of interviewing Pat in an area in the museum where volunteers are working on restoring an Avro Lancaster. You saw an ad that they needed workers in Brantford, and that was your motivation to move?
Yeah.
Were you interested in building aircraft, or it was just a
No, it was a job. I was the oldest of 7, and my dad was just periodic work and in them days, in the Depression days. So I was just glad to get anything.
How old were you when you started working in aircraft production?
I was 16. Let's see, March of 1943, me and my 3 friends, they wanted workers in Brantford. And so we got on the old CPR at Port Arthur and overnight. And I worked there in Brantford from, let's see, that was March, and till probably about September, October.
What aircraft did you first help build?
The Anson trainee bomber.
So what did you do on the Anson?
I worked on the wing section, the rivet. When we first went in there was an older fella from England, and it was a special room, and there was a big sheet of kind of like tin or something, and we had to learn how to use the rivet gun and to use the bar. And you never seen the one that had the bar. She was in behind, the aircraft wings and that, so you had to just tap or whatever.
In December 1943, Pat was transferred to the new Victory Aircraft plant in Malton, the site of today's Pearson International Airport. The Victory Aircraft Company had a contract to make the Lancaster 4-engine bomber, and at the peak of production, it was turning out 1 Lancaster a day. At the end of the war, it had manufactured 430 Lancasters. So what part of the Avro Lancaster did you help build?
The wing.
And how did you get assigned to building the wings? Did you have a choice?
No, you just, where they sent you, where they needed you.
Did it have a name? The job have a name?
No. It was huge, way bigger than the other 2 that I worked on. Mm-hmm.
So I understand that the Lancaster required about 1 million rivets, and with a wingspan of over 100 feet, thousands and thousands of rivets.
Oh, must have been, because there was, I couldn't get over when I went to visit my daughter how big the wing was. I thought, gee.
How long was your day, your work day?
The average, 8 hours, something we had to break and all.
What were you paid?
Gosh, I don't know. Whatever it was, I was a kid coming through the Depression, so whatever it was, I just can't remember.
The plant in Malton eventually, I think, employed around 9,500 people at the end of production, or towards the end of production, and 25% of the workforce was female.
Yeah.
How did you feel about working in a male environment like that?
Well, half the time you never seen any. It was mostly women, like myself, and working on a different section.
So can you tell us about some of your co-workers and any special memories you had of them?
No, they were, most of them were from Nova Scotia, Cape Breton Island, and then our group from Port Arthur and Fort William, or Thunder Bay.
So Rosie the Riveter was a term that was used to describe women involved in the war effort. Mm-hmm. And although the term originated in the U.S., I understand in Canada they were called the Canadian Rosies.
Oh.
So how did you feel about being called a Rosie?
Oh, I loved it. I thought that was great. There's a guy in our where I live now. That's my name. He calls me Rosie.
So the first Canadian-built Lancaster rolled out of the factory on August 1st, 1943. Were you there for that event?
No.
Were you allowed to see any of the Lancasters that came out of
Oh,
production?
you could go, but you were just interested in what you had to do. I was at Malton when it was D-Day, and shortly after that, I went back to Port Arthur with my family. We had a small aircraft division. It was the shipyards in Port Arthur, and we had a small aircraft division, the Hawker Hurricane, and they sent over windows for us to rivet because we had a small aircraft division there. So I worked some of it on the little windows, and we had to put them together, and that was on the Hawker Hurricane. So I was on three.
You were on 3 aircraft.
Yeah.
So Pat, how do you feel about the contribution that you made to the war effort?
I feel great. You did your part.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about your experience?
No, I enjoyed it all. When I first went to Brantford, I was 16, so young, and a whole group come in from Nova Scotia and Cape Breton Island, and I was there, like I said, from March to maybe October, September before I went. And one of the pictures I got from my daughter, and a lot of prairie people. So I had some real nice times, yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Pat, thanks for talking to us.
Oh, good. That's
Appreciate
good. Yeah. So did I do pretty good, Larry?
Great.